District CER Summative, 8th grade ELA. Directions. Read the following passage. After reading the passage, answer the following CER question by composing a paragraph. Support your claim with valid reasoning and relevant and sufficient evidence from the text. Prompt. What issue of drought from the article is most concerning? Support your claim with valid reasoning and relevant and sufficient evidence from the text. Dry Winter Sparks Big Water Battle in California by Fresno B. Fresno, California. After the driest winter in decades, California water officials are killing salmon and destroying farming, endangering shorebirds and threatening city drinking water. They are also quite possibly raising the crime rate. Those are just some of the complaints people are lodging about state water policies that seem to be making no one happy. From all over California, farmers, wildlife groups, cities, and even the Fresno County Sheriff have posted their thoughts on the website of the State Water Resources Control Board. The storm of protest centers on how to use this year's puny snowfall and half-empty reservoirs. This year is a whole new level of crazy, said Era Azdarian of the San Joaquin and Delta Mendota Water Authority, a group that represents many farmers who are expected to get zero water this year. Besides fear, exactly what is setting everybody off? An old argument. Mostly, the discussion is about how much river water should be allowed to reach the Pacific Ocean through the Sacramento-San Joaquin River Delta, an old California argument. The Sacramento and the San Joaquin, the state's two longest rivers, are the main water supply for 3 million acres of farmland. The rivers, which feed into the network of smaller rivers in the Delta area, also supply water to 25 million residents. At the same time, the two rivers hold out damaging salt from the Pacific Ocean. The fresh water from the rivers must continue to flow into the ocean, or salt water from the ocean will flow into the Delta. That would spoil the water for people, farms, and wildlife. San Joaquin Valley farm groups say too much water has been allowed to escape to the ocean. They feel the multi-billion-dollar agriculture industry is being robbed of water. Environmental and fish farming groups say agriculture is using the drought crisis to get more water from the river. This puts even non-threatened fish and the fishing industry at risk for catastrophic losses. The argument spilled into the spotlight in February and March, oddly because storms finally began hitting the state after a sunny, dry December and January. The February and March storms caused the amount of water to rise through the Delta, which is an area of land at the mouth of a river, and the fight over the extra water was on. Farming versus fishing. Farmers held massive rallies and pressured lawmakers. They pointed to huge increases of water flow both months. Fishing groups and environmentalists wrote passionate media releases and laid into officials who allowed increases in water pumping. In the middle, state and federal agencies walked a tightrope. They emphasized protection of public health and safety while balancing water needs. Since Governor Jerry Brown declared a drought emergency in January, water leaders have been working daily on adjustments in the state's water system. In a state defined by water wars, this year's stands out. This is a big one, says Les Grover, Assistant Deputy Director at the State Water Resources Control Board, which decides California water rights. We get many issues before us, but this is a very dry year. People are very worried. Nobody disputes the need for the water, but the storms in February and March caused the outflow of water to peak more than 3 times higher. Grover said the Delta needed a good flushing to push out ocean salt from the dry months. Pumping water out of the rivers to farms and cities did not greatly increase. So how much water should flow to the ocean and how much should go to the South Delta? Salmon, rain, and drought. Paragraph 4. That depends on tides and the presence of federally protected fish such as salmon. It also depends on how much rainfall there is, drought, and other factors, scientists say. Should that balance be 80-20, 80% going out and 20% being pumped? Asked Asdarian. That was the split in February and March. Valley farmers who rely on water say they will leave hundreds of thousands of acres uncultivated this year. Last Friday, the state announced it would allow farmers in cities to take 5% of their allocation from the state water project. Farms and cities are each allotted a certain amount of water they are able to use. Environmentalists say the plan is much bigger than river flow through the delta and should include water stored at huge reservoirs. The water in storage may help in the future, but can't flow out to the ocean, says conservation biologist John Rosenfield of the Bay Institute in San Francisco. The Bay Institute estimates 60% of the water from rain and snow is going to reservoirs, not into the delta. Does drought lead to crime? Water deliveries and shortage have been increased at a time when protection has been decreased for fish that are going extinct, Rosenfield said. That just doesn't make sense. The fish versus farm debate dominates headlines, but people commenting to the state board raised many other issues. Keeping water in storage would help against continued drought, but both the environment and farmers downstream would suffer without the water, opponents say. In the Delta, residents are extremely concerned about their communities as water cutbacks continue, said Janet McCleary, who lives in Discovery Bay, a community in the Delta. We're just trying to protect our home and life, she wrote in an email, and trying to save the salmon and local Delta farmers while we're at it. In Fresno County, drought and a zero allocation of Northern California river water will mean unemployment rates could climb to 50% in some towns, Sheriff Margaret Mims wrote to the Water Board. Crime could become a bigger problem as a result, she said. There is a clear link between unemployment and public safety, and thus between water shortages and public safety, Mims wrote. CER prompt. Which issue of drought from the article is most concerning? Support your claim with valid reasoning and relevant and sufficient evidence from the text. Type your CER in the box below.